Everyone wants to figure out how to be more inclusive, but no one wants the expense of risk. We don't use AI for our actual decisioning. If the financial system isn't, then there's going to be a whole new system built for them because they are the growing majority of workers.
My guest today opened her pitch email with, "I'm going to be blunt. I want to come on the Weird Canadian." I respect that. So here she is. Tamara Laine is an Emmy Award-winning journalist turned Fintech founder. She's been a professional ballet dancer, an HBO documentary producer, and back in 2013, she was making a film for the UN campaign to stop killer robots. So when she talks about ethical AI, she's been in that fight longer than most. Now she's the founder and CEO of Empower AI, spelled MPWR, building infrastructure to fix what she calls broken pipes of the financial system. Pipes designed for the 1950s for a workforce that no longer exists. There are 80 million gig workers in the US alone, and that's 6 out of 10, and 6 out of 10 get denied loans. Not because they're broke, but because the banking system is built for a W2 world and can't read their income. Tamara has lived this herself as a high earning Tamara has lived this herself as a high earning freelancer who still couldn't get a credit card. So she decided to rewrite the code. And of course, being the Weird Canadian, that's just par for the course here. Tamara, welcome to the Weird Canadian.
I love it. You gave the best intro ever. I feel like it's a mic drop. I don't even need to say anything. Thank you.
I appreciate it, but I can't take all the credit. My AI helps me give that deep dive into you and do a fair bit of research on my guests. So I try and encompass as much as I can. So what's a truth in your industry that people do not want to admit?
Oh, a truth in my industry that they do not want to admit. My gosh, that's a really tough one because I feel like I've got two industries, right? I've got AI and I've got fintech, the financial industry. So I feel, let's just say the truth in AI that I talk about a lot is that everyone thinks that all the work is being done by AI agents right now, and that there's this magical group of people who are exceptionally efficient and have armies of AI. And the truth is that is such a minority of people, usually engineers that already have a handle on technology to begin with, and that everyday people, most organizations and businesses are still having their heads spin round and round on how they adopt AI in any sort of way or fashion.
I'm part of the 0.1% that's doing the above and beyond us, the power users, because we were the first on board and we understand the technology the most, even though I still don't understand it to the full extent. But as a software engineer, I know how to work with it to get exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
What about fintech space?
The truth that no one wants to say out loud in the fintech space. I think the truth is that everyone wants to figure out how to be more inclusive, but no one wants the expense of risk.
Very
And
fair.
in,
Yep.
in order to solve problems, there is inherent risk.
Always. I deal with it every day. Half the time, my AI agents are not doing what I want them to do. And if you're not willing to accept the risk of them going down a rabbit hole, you're not going to figure out how they're going to work. So I completely understand that. And also, I was part of the Dogecoin rally and the GME saga. So I completely understand financial risk. I lost a lot of money, made a lot of money, and then lost it again. So it's been a fun experience for me. So I want to back up a little bit here because your journey is very interesting. How did you go from being ballerina to journalism and now into fintech?
It doesn't seem linear, which it's not completely linear, but it actually makes a lot of sense. My background is about telling stories and solving problems. And that's what I'm incredibly good at. I'm incredibly good at spotting problems, seeing trends that are affecting people, and then figuring out what that solution should be to solve it. My early career, I did that through investigations. I did that through working with other people who were actually doing the problem solving and able to tell the story behind that and be the podium for what was happening. Now I do it through technology. I build the technology.
Did that translation into technology really take a lot for you? Because I've been coding since I was 14. It's hard for me to understand how hard it is for people to pick up coding. Was it
Yeah.
hard for you to pick it up?
So I don't code. And so, yeah, it would be really hard. I would say I'm the AI proficient person. I can use it. I'm tech savvy, but I'm not an engineer and don't claim to be. I should not be building highly secure platforms, right? But what I do know how to do is I do know how to organize it. And I do know how to set the vision, the tone, what needs to happen. I see the problem, I create what the solution is, and then I work with extraordinary people to do that. And on my team now, I have an AI savant, right? An engineer who comes from a cybersecurity background, who knows how to build secure, highly regulated technology. And I think that's the important thing, is knowing what your strengths are and also knowing where someone else has better strengths, and you marry that together and you have a perfect product.
Do too many people try to do too much right now?
I think the ADHD of building companies is definitely one of our biggest problems right now.
Too
I
many.
have
Same.
I'm not
I
the
completely understand. I actually run or I'm doing two companies and I'm doing tourism consulting for my town. So I completely understand.
Yeah, no, 100%. Everybody, especially with AI. So if you have the people who are leveraging AI and building agents and have agent teams working for them, they didn't go and say, "Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I'm going to go sit by a lake and read now." They were like, "I need to launch another company. I'm going to now volunteer for this initiative and we're going to build." So no one that I know that's working within AI who's freeing up time because they've got email assistants that are cutting down 2 hours of their day has less time.
Mhm.
Like, it is the wild irony of technology right now.
I think I'm a little bit different because I have actually done that, but I made a specific choice in my life that so that my partner thankfully is not ADHD and she's you need to relax. So I'm only allowed two companies, this being the primary one, which I'm going to turn into a media company that protects the creative eventually because I love storytelling as well. And then a 3D printing business that I do the printing for, she does the selling. And then the tourism coordination gives me a little bit more free time to experience or talk with my neighbors, community, and try and build up that. But I've actually 100x my workload and two times my ability to just go fuck off for the day.
Oh, I'm jealous. All right. So after this, I'm gonna need to talk with you about what some of those agents are doing. And because, yeah, I have not experienced that yet, but I'm in launch mode, right? Like, I'm
Mm,
launching pilots. A lot of my work right now is communication.
mm,
And that one-on-one communication is incredibly important. I spend probably 4 hours in my email, even with an email assistant that is exceptional. I probably would be spending 16 hours on
wow.
communication if it weren't for AI assistant. But right now it's highly hand-holding, needs my attention, meetings with customers, and that you just can't get around. And you shouldn't get around. I
Mm.
fully believe in that human experience. I'm just in the midst of it.
No, and I echo that sentiment too. The reason I picked up the tourism stuff was because so a little bit of context on me. I moved from Ontario 2 years ago with my partner after leaving the Ministry of Transportation, where I worked as a software engineer for 8 years, and really now understand that it was killing my mental health to work in an organization that doesn't want to do better, doesn't want to make change, doesn't actually work, and people sitting on the sideline collecting a paycheck while I'm trying to focus and build out these great applications that then I'm told not to build half of it because they don't want accountability. And then it was, where was I going with that? Wow, that's the ADHD in full effect. But so I moved out here, and the first thing that happened was my neighbor was at my door telling me all about my house, the town, everything around, any information I needed. It was the first time in a very long time I felt community. I felt the connection. And I say this a lot, but AI has given me the ability to be more human. It's taken off the cognitive load that I was always stressed about to be able to connect with people on an actual personal basis. So also one of the reasons I started this because I love talking to people like yourself, the people in the field to understand what you're doing and to give the insight to to the next person and to build off of that. I love to learn. And you guys are everybody I've interviewed so far has been amazing in terms of what they're doing, what they're trying to do. So I also saw that your father was a Purple Heart.
Or parts.
Yes.
You
How
did
does that?
research. I don't know where I mentioned that. Was that somewhere? Oh, wow, that's incredible. Yeah, 4 Purple Hearts.
Yeah. So can you tell me how that's pushed you to your path that you're doing now?
Yeah. So my dad not only had 4 Purple Hearts, but he was an LA sheriff and did really put other people in front of his own well-being for most of his career. And that sort of service and self-sacrifice were something that I was raised with. And so when I left, I was ballerina. When I left and started picking my next path, I was very much and have always very much been drawn to how do I help others, right?
Mm.
And journalism was a way to do that because you get to investigative journalism specifically and doing news exposés because you get to embed yourself with communities and help figure out how to make them thrive, right? And
I
solve problems. And so I was never going to be in the armed service. I was never going to be a police officer because I have so much respect for that. And I'm not the person to run into the burning building, right? But there are ways that anyone can serve. And so I found my niche. And then even as it now translates into technology and my huge push for ethical AI and how building technology with a code of ethics and with community first and human first policies and design. That's just something that's embedded in me. And it definitely has to do with my father and what he showed me by example and how he lived.
My grandfather for me. He helped me really understand how to. It was weird because I don't really I'm understanding it now that he instilled upon me the way I want to run my companies and is more personal, more family oriented, more communal. Do you see that kind of business being the structure going forward for most businesses?
You mean family oriented and communal and
Yeah, where everybody wants to contribute to the goal as opposed to where we are now, as it's just a paycheck.
gosh, the optimist in me says I would really love to believe that. I don't see it in practice yet,
Okay.
right? I think because when you're seeing and talking to other companies, I'm like trying not to name any names or I'm trying to be very broad, right? And all the trending stuff. With a lot of Gen Z, you see that they don't want to work for companies or dig in or have kind of that community experience. They want to have it outside of the companies, right? They want to,
Mhm.
and then you see with the tech startups and with the other companies, a real move away from inclusivity and structure. And no, I feel like we've moved away from that. And I guess the question is, how do we move back to that? How do we move
Yeah,
forward?
I think it's just a factor of missing time. I know COVID was really harmful for a lot of people coming out of school, and they didn't really get that sense of. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they explained it to me. As millennials, we grew up in a time where we had a financial crisis. So if you wanted a job, you had to work your ass off in
Yeah.
order to stay in the position you were in. Whereas the Gen Z came in at a time when there was mass hiring, everybody was working from home, there was no really incentive to do any more than the bare minimum. I'm really trying to figure out how to bridge that gap.
Yeah. I remember when I was interning and starting my career, I was the first in and the last out.
Mm.
And there was a lot of things that were super unhealthy about like how hard we worked and all those things, which you're like, oh, should we go back to that? Probably not. But do I feel like I earned where I'm at? Oh, I do. I fought hard to be a leader. I fought hard for every promotion and there's something that when you don't do that, I wonder what you're missing. I wonder what you're missing with that sense of accomplishment if you aren't working hard for
Mm.
the privileges that you're given.
Yeah, the meritocracy has really gotten the shaft lately, and I really, especially in the Canadian landscape, I don't know much about it, but we've basically bailed on meritocracy for socialism, and I am so scared for that. So I want to get a little bit more into your journalism background because you were talking about killer robots in 2013. What did you see back then that pushed you into this path?
Yeah, it was a really exceptional opportunity. The campaign to stop killer robots, which was started by several Nobel Peace Laureates, was a really, I don't know
That's
what
all good.
happened to my network. Yeah, so the campaign to stop killer robots, which was started by a bunch of Nobel Peace Laureates, was really interesting because it was way before its time, right?
Mhm.
When I started volunteering for that, we were going to the UN and we were saying, look, there are going to be autonomous weapons. There already are semi and almost autonomous, could be autonomous, but the switch isn't flipped yet. And in the conversations we were having at the UN, we're like, no, that is never going to happen. This is talking about things that just aren't possible, and or like we're not going to let happen, right?
Mhm.
And so what we wanted to do was really put policies in place, global policies, so that autonomous robots and weapons weren't running around anytime soon. And so fast forward now, you I am certain that if I asked 10 people on the street if they believed that there was going to be autonomous weapons in war, they would say there already are. This is like a reality that in 10 years, holy cow, we went from people not believing it to it is a legitimate reality of what is happening out there with no policy.
If you're a podcaster or a video creator, this is the all-in-one AI video editor you've been looking for. I've been using Async since day one, and it's amazing to watch it progress into a complete powerhouse for creators. Especially for people like me who, well, can't edit for shit. Async leverages AI to give you total control over your video. You can record, edit, generate clips, add subtitles, and even dub your content in over 15 languages. Plus, it lets you upscale your footage and easily repurpose your content for different platforms, all without ever having to switch between different tools. It's truly a game changer. So if you want to streamline your workflow and make your editing process painless, check out async.com today. The link is in the description below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually brings me into a different question. You're working with AI, and compliance is a big problem right now, or not compliance. Regulation is a big problem for AI.
Yeah.
Why are you advocating for regulation while the rest of them aren't?
Yeah, I think regulation is the friend of innovation. So when you understand, and I think about it this way, a lot of the people that are saying no regulation are the really big players that they have their funding, right? Billions upon billions of dollars in funding and they're fund their way, right? For the new players, people who are entering, the lack of regulation stifles investment. It stifles their ability to grow. In the US, we've got the kind of popcorn legislation happening on AI regulation. So what happens is for any company that's doing AI, you've got to now be following 50 different states and what they're doing for regulation. And software crosses borders, right? And it's so tricky. And so if you're a new company trying to do something, you could now be stifled because you can't afford a big lawyer to help you navigate all the regulations that are happening, or it's that entry level for, I would say, pre-seed to series A that gets hit by the lack of regulations. You either have to pick a lane, no regulations or regulations, but the middle ground is just like the stock market, right? Hates volatility,
Uncertainty.
it hates uncertainty. It's the same thing when it comes to investors for new technology. And that's where the problem lies. So we actually create all of our technology according to the EU AI standards, right?
Yeah.
Because they set the tone. And if you hit their standards, then you're really going to just be fine with anything that's happening in the US right now. But yeah, I think it's an issue. Do I think that regulations potentially stifle creativity on the grand scale? Potentially, but not enough for it to be a problem. If there's something that's really innovative that will help people, it will find a way.
When you talk about creativity, I just go straight to what I do. So I also create, so I'm a lyricist. I like to write music. Now I'm an AI artist. I don't know how else to label it. There's still no term for a guy who creates music with AI but still writes the music. I worry that regulation is going to stop me from being able to create my TV shows and movies that I want to create eventually. Do you see that level of creativity still being allowed through the gateway?
So you mean, I guess we have to be more specific because you're composing AI, but they're original, right?
Yeah.
So then what's the difference between something that's composed on a guitar that's original to something that you're composing with AI that's original?
This is the one thing I'm trying to tell people is I'm still the human in the machine. I'm still using my own opinion, my own thoughts, lyrics to create something. But I worry that because, like you said, high-powered lawyers, especially in Hollywood, bringing in regulations to stop that. Do you worry about that, or do you see that coming?
From Hollywood. Oh, that's a good question. Since this hasn't been my focus area, I'm trying to dig into what I know. Like the Writers Guild, right, is trying to make sure that things aren't written by AI so that writers don't lose their job. But when it comes to, again, if it's original and you're not scraping it from somebody's movie, then why would it be a threat? So I don't see that happening. I see the plagiarism being an issue. I see the if you are remixing composition from a Spielberg movie, right? Like I could see why there would be issues, but I feel like they're the same issues that would be relevant if you weren't using AI and you were doing it on a drum set and a guitar yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's
I understand that. I'm also writing a book now too, so I'm getting pushback from agents being you used AI, and I used AI to refine my thoughts. It's
yeah.
not like I'm stealing somebody's work and telling it's my own, but I know that's a hard industry to get into in the first place.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot with publishers as well, and even publishing news articles, right? They're like, was AI used for any part of this? And I'm like, I would challenge, I think everybody uses AI now for as a copy editor.
Mhm.
As long as you don't put 5 prompts into a chat and say, write me a whole book, it's what's the difference?
Very fair. I because you've been in the HBO space and things, I wanted to get your insight. So, can you explain to me what's going on with the US financial system? Why
Wait,
this is something that I don't understand because I'm Canadian.
okay.
You guys have several different apps to send money. We have one. It's called Interact. I
You mean,
mean,
are you talking Venmo, Stripe,
yeah.
Cash App?
Why? Yeah. Why have you never really standardized your plumbing?
This is a grand question that should be answered over a scotch.
I try for the hard stuff. I'm sorry.
Why have we not standardized our plumbing? But you would say the same thing. I think most countries don't have one form of sending money, right? That's part of innovation. That's part of the beauty of having kind of a capitalistic market is that it doesn't have to be through just one and that you can find cheaper prices and better rates of sending things cross borders. I think that's good. I haven't thought about why we have so many because I just think, oh, we've got options, right? Like you have options. You don't have just one bank.
Yeah. Up here, we only have 5.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to slowly work out how socialistic our country is. And it's come through so many years being taught that this is the way, like, this is just how you do it. And then having conversations with people all over the world being like, I never thought that was dumb way of doing things. I never thought that, like, having cheaper prices, although we used to pay for our payment system, but now we don't. Like, it's all free across the board. So having that one standardization helps because all you need is an email address. You just send the money to the email address and it's all handled, all security, everything.
I mean,
But
that's great. It seems like it's good for the user, but then
who's making the money off the back end?
and I believe in competition.
Mm. The US has always been about competition. What makes the US different in terms of why they fight for competition? Is it just because lower prices, or is it something that deeper in the United States?
I think that we've always part of our whole system is built on not having monopolies, right?
Mm.
On not having too big to fail, even though we've had it, right? We've had it, but the whole idea is to never have industries, companies that are too big to fail. And that if you have healthy competition, that's always better for the consumer, right? It's very Keynesian. So I think that's just ingrained in
Okay.
in our view of how you build companies and why you have multiple competitors and you have, what is it, the FCC, not FCC. Why am I blanking on the name of the organization?
See,
The Federal Consumer Agency that
Mhm.
makes sure that companies are playing fairly and that they're not letting Google buy Apple so that you've got one major conglomerate, right? That's the whole point.
Canada's so backwards. We've got three grocers, five telecommunications, five banks, and they're all just we have just monopolies across the board, which actually is ridiculous when you think about we actually have laws against anti-monopoly. We just don't use them. And yet we're still making more laws, and this is where I'm like sometimes I really wish we were the United States. Other times I'm like I like being a small population in a big place.
Yeah. And you can go to the doctor and not go broke.
Yes, that's you go broke the other way because they just take it all in taxes. Our system's backwards in terms of we have the monopoly problem. Everybody is putting more money into these systems, but the money's not the problem. The delivery, the services, the bureaucracy behind it is the problem, but nobody sees it because it's as far as they can tell, it's free to go to the doctor when in actuality you're paying 40% of your paycheck to actually go see the doctor. So I'm just trying to relay those kind of things to our audience. So let's go back into Empower. Can you tell me a little bit more about your company and what you're doing?
Yeah, so we're creating the agentic infrastructure for highly regulated industries, starting with finance. So we started with action-oriented, policy-bound agents that can do the whole life cycle of a loan, from onboarding and origination to underwriting packaging to pre collections mitigation. And so our agents, they do the work. They aren't a chat bot. They are action oriented. They do everything and they make the experience better. So they make the experience better for the borrower and they make the experience better for the lender. And that's
Not
the
having
goal. The goal is to free up the lenders to do the more human work and not get bogged down in a lot of the orchestration and manual work, as well as my personal mission is our agents can sort through hundreds, if not thousands, of data points in order to make better decisions. So the company started with the mission of helping bank the underbanked. So in the US, like you mentioned, nearly half the US workforce is gig workers, freelancers, creators, non-traditional earners. They don't really fit nicely into the traditional credit scoring system. And so what we aimed to do was to be able to say, if we have better data and we can bring that in a clear and concise way, can we help those who have not been able to access credit and capital in a way that was easy and in a way that lowered risk? And so that's what we accomplished. We leveraged AI and being able to do this in a way that made the underwriter's life easy to bring in all this information, onboard the borrower in a really easy and fun way, and make it so that this process was much more fair and accessible.
How are you keeping it so that it doesn't miss certain people? Like, how are you guiding the agents to ensure that people don't get lost in the system?
So we're still in our pilot, and so we're seeing that data, right? We're working through that data, and by missed, what can you give me a little bit more specific of?
I'm just thinking in terms of if somebody's not reporting correctly, because I know there's people don't know what they're doing in finance. I had 2 years harsh learning in finance. So I know not everybody's reporting what they need to or how they need to. And that's another issue entirely is how you track your money and how you budget and all that fun stuff. So how are you making sure that they're not missed?
So that is a great point. Now I understand your question more. So we leverage Plaid to be able to hook up to bank accounts and so that we can see the real picture and our agents can track and see if they ask certain questions. We know that there's a large majority that are renters and don't have mortgages. Mortgages are traditionally one of the main indicators in credit scores, right? And so renting is new to be tracked. And so there's different third-party vendors that track renting history, but also you can just see it in bank accounts. And we can see, hey, your rent isn't in this bank account. Is there another bank account that we're missing? So that we can get a real picture so that then we can say, hey, we're doing everything we can to get you a good rate and a good loan.
Okay.
And so it's tricky. We are pulling in data from a lot of different sources and the agents have to do a lot of digging. And by that, I mean our digital agents. But our agent, just like you've got a huge workforce that is 10x your ability to launch and scale, our agents can do the same thing. An underwriter would never be able to, it would take them forever to do the type of work that our agents can do in minutes.
That's the one thing that I feel AI is helping is people are like, we have enough people to fix the planet. I'm like, we don't have nearly enough people to fix the planet. There's way too many problems and half the time people don't want to be dealing with these problems. How are you keeping your costs down?
So the way that we built our technology is, and something I just spoke about as keynote speaker at a Fintech conference over here, is our agents are the action-oriented part of our agents is AI. The modeling is deterministic, is deterministic. Oh my gosh. This is the word that I forgot yesterday as well. But we don't use AI for our actual decisioning. I'm sorry, it is deterministic. It's not, we don't use AI for our decisioning. We use a deterministic model, which is critical for regulations, right? For being fair, unbiased, being able to audit it better, for it being clear and transparent for the bank and compliance reasons. And also that reduces costs because AI would be very expensive in something that really shouldn't be an AI problem, right? And so that's one of the ways that we do reduce costs, because if we were using AI for every single decision there, I think it would skyrocket. And AI should be doing what it's good at, which is parsing through data and bringing it in and putting it in the places that it should go so that a deterministic model can actually give the legitimate response.
I appreciate that take because I've tried to echo that to people. Is this is a data aggregator, pure full stop. It is not meant to do everything. It is meant to give you everything you're looking for so that you can go and do those things.
Yeah.
And yes, you can use it to go do those things, but you should still be looking at the data.
Yeah. And what we know, so my early work and like even the story that I won an Emmy on, AI is as good as the people who develop it and as good as the information that's going into it. We're very big. Our proprietary technology is policy bound. And so our agents aren't scraping the internet for answers, right? It's only based on the information that it's given in these buckets. And AI for decisioning is incredibly volatile because it is inherently biased. It does, like, as good as it is getting, and it is getting phenomenal, you still cannot be 100% sure on how it got to what answer and why. Even if you're watching the little marks go by, it is a product of how it was developed.
Yeah.
My favorite example, and this was a long time ago, but it was Tay, the Microsoft Twitter chatbot. Do you remember this one?
Yep, the racist one.
Yeah. In a few hours on Twitter, she became a Nazi-loving, daddy-hating Twitter bot.
Yep.
Denying and all, it's something that's phenomenal. Got power. It's gotten so much better since that. But I can never forget that. It is supposed to make it so that, like, you as a can make better. It shouldn't be the making your decisions.
And even to a later trial was Anthropic's blackmail syndrome that it had, where it would blackmail the developer, which it just found out that it was following a Reddit thread that was like it was a fiction thread basically that told the AI that it was this advanced smart user and that that humans would go and try and find ways of killing it. And obviously it's just gonna take whatever it's taken from the story and understand that. Have you found any ways with working with the AI to get more insight into what it's thinking?
I haven't focused on that recently. No, you know why? We have been just deep into how do we create trust in our AI agents, right? And so what we do is we make sure that our agents can't operate outside of the information that it has. And so I haven't dove deep into why it's thinking. Like we're just like testing, okay, no hallucinations, you're bound by design. But that's interesting. I probably should be doing more of that. I think you're catching me just in the throes of, does my technology do what it's meant to do?
Yeah, being in a pilot, I completely understand. I've done a few pilots in my day. You're just trying to get the outcome to work properly the way you intend it, and everything, all the tech debt is what we call it, is shifted off to the side until you can deal with it. And unfortunately, I have so much tech debt because I'm focused on building agents. But yeah, I'm really trying to figure out how we look in behind. The episode you reached out to for was Martin Hill's. He has a brain map, which he does. So you can actually connect the points in which the AI is grabbing from in order to figure out what the decision tree is.
Oh, that. So we do that.
Okay.
I guess what's really funny is we do. We have, because it's to be audited, right? So like for compliance, what we built out, which is really incredible, is we do have a decisioning map. And it doesn't look quite like the brain, but it is 3D. And you can see all the things in the thought process of. So we actually do that. I can't believe I was like, no, we don't spend any time on that. Like we built it out. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Did you find that you're limited to the 2D? Because this is something that I've been playing with. There's called web spatial now, but I'm finding it very hard to, as a human, to follow its lines of thought when it's got a little bit from over here and a little bit over there, and then it grabs it together, and then and then I'm going to grab over here. And do you find that the 2D-ness of our current tech is problematic?
I haven't yet. We haven't run into that.
Okay.
But that might be actually more of a question for my CTO. Because I'm just like, we talk about it and I'm like, this is brilliant. This looks incredible. And this was really hard to do.
I completely understand. I'm definitely the one who's been telling people like, oh, the amount of work I put into this was sometimes not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, because we were talking about, okay, how do we create truth, right? How do we show this? And so then she was saying, well, we could do it in this mapping and make it 3D. And then she came back and showed it to me. I was like, this is brilliant. She was like, this was hard. This was very hard. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what we were talking about. You did a great job.
Yeah. And I say that because my agents go and do the work, and so I can do so much now, but I spend a good hour or two of my day brain drain. It's literally like I am so focused trying to get it to do what I want that it's actually more draining than when I was working 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
That was draining in a different mechanism. But I feel like that's what AI has given a lot of people, is that ability to run out their entire idea structure in a short period of time. And I'm just trying to figure out ways of not hurting the brain, because sometimes I just have to lay down and I'm like,
yeah.
Especially in the fintech space, I'm sure that's so much fun.
Yeah. It's a real thing. But I think you even see the memos coming out from like Sam Altman and like saying the same thing and being like, what is his now? I'm sleeping 4 hours a night, or I'm sleeping in shifts because everything is happening so fast and you need to reset. But there's a podcast I listened to, the AI, oh my gosh, what is it called? It's like the AI breakdown, I think is what it's called. And just recently he was talking about the fact that our brains can actually only handle so much work in a day. And so what we've settled on for centuries is like the 8-hour day. That's really what our brains can handle. And what we're doing with AI is we're crushing that into hours. But your brain is still doing the same output just in this short amount of time. So then you are literally brain dead for the rest of the day. And there's also those studies that you can only make so many decisions in a day. And so that's why you minimize your outfits and you minimize all these other decisions. And you've got routines because you can only really handle so many hard decisions.
That's why I moved out to the middle of nowhere, where I can just hop on an ATV and go fishing on a random Tuesday if I want to, because I just really need to like zone out and do something that doesn't take a whole lot of brain power. My partner doesn't exactly love me going off into the middle of the woods and not seeing her for hours, but I digress.
Your brain has to do it.
Yeah, it really does. What do you see working in the industry that's coming?
I want to say something that isn't the typical answer, right? Because the typical answer is going to be like agents are going to be able to be actually useful to everybody. So there's something, I wish that I was a creator on this, but I thought it was really interesting. And this is something that's a little bit out of the scope of what most people are thinking of. But there's someone in the Boston area that is creating a bank for agents.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, as we move forward into this agentic era and people are having agents shop for them, how are they going to be doing the transactions? And how will they be given the authority? And so that idea of how we are really at the precipice of reimagining a lot of how our systems operate is something that's really fascinating to me.
I still refuse to give my agents my credit card.
God,
I
no.
don't trust them at all for that.
No, I have an agent in my email right now that's only in my email, but the people who have agents that cross a lot, like multiple different technologies and SaaS platforms. And I know someone who has an email box for their agent and then forwards the agent everything that they need. But I use a shameless plug. I use Day AI, and I found them to be amazing and a huge advocate for what that agent's done for me.
I'm currently working on an agent for the elderly to help them navigate the internet a little bit better, be their safeguard. So essentially, they would have their own agent that gets all of their email, all of anything that comes to them, and that would parse it out, do the first level of spam filtering for them.
Don't click on this link.
Yeah, it's very hard to do, to build an agent for somebody you don't know because they're so customizable.
Yeah.
So it has been hard, but I really do see there being a personal agent for everybody having their own little guardian angel is the way I can best see it. I just hope it comes in a time when people are okay with it, because that's the other side to think. How do you get people to use your software?
So on the back end for the lender, the platform, we designed it to look a lot like an AI platform. So my background in marketing for a very long time and user behavior, I just know that adoption is very hard when you give someone something that's completely different than they've ever seen, right? So you do have to model some things and how they see it that's comforting. And so for the lender side, it's designed to be really intuitive that anyone on the team can start using it within 30 minutes and understand it. For the borrower, we have two things that we're working on right now. So one is our agent, two different systems, two parallel systems, and it really depends on what the lender wants to do. One, our agent can operate really like a form, right? That type form that you're very much used to, so that it is a seamless process for any borrower. They understand this process. And the agent is there talking, helping out as more of an assistant. And on the back end, all the magic is happening. Two, our agents can actually do the whole process of onboarding someone through text, WhatsApp, email, phone conversation, or online form. And we're waiting for, and we're excited for the moment that someone's, I want to do this totally over WhatsApp. And our agent can actually onboard that customer on WhatsApp. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, right? But I know you can't force someone to do something that's completely new. They won't feel comfortable with it. So we're really meeting people where they are. And then as that comfort grows, we've got the capacity to really change the whole experience. I did the process over WhatsApp and I was like, this is brilliant. You can walk away and it's like you're talking to someone. I'm putting the mic on. I'm saying, no, that's not the type of loan I want. I'm looking for this type of loan. And can you make it this way? And then Emma's talking back to me. Sure. And then she's, do you want me to email you the documents to sign? I'm like, no, just send them right here. Great. I'll send you them right here. And I'll send the copies to your email. Thanks, Emma. Perfect. This was great. I did this all in 5 minutes. I'm approved for a loan. That's the next level experience that you're going to be able to do. And
it's how I talk to my agent. So another shameless plug, Whisperflow, a great tool for just dictation, actually. It's very good at taking exactly what you say and typing it out exactly how you want it. But I don't touch the keyboard anymore.
Yeah.
I just talk to my agents, get my unrefined thoughts. They refine it down, then they prompt out to the next thing, and from there and there. I think voice is becoming a powerful tool.
It is, but I'm not going to let my daughter listen to this because she's 8 and I'm like trying to teach her the importance of writing and typing. And whenever she gets my phone, she's just, I want to see dogs in my area that are good with kids. And I'm like, you need to type it. Your brain needs to type it. You need to write it.
Do you worry about our next generation?
Yes.
One of the things I say a lot is I'm just grateful that I grew up without AI, because I would not know how to code as well as I do now if I had AI, because it just does so much. But I understand that it can do a lot more for me because I understand the underlying architecture, how it operates, how to build things, and a bunch of things. I worry we're no longer giving the experience needed to understand the basis anymore.
It's not quite that to me. It's understanding the guardrails and the risk, right? It's more than that. It's that, you're growing up not understanding the other way of doing things and the importance of human oversight and the reliance on something else doing the work for you, right? It goes back to that meritocracy of earning it.
I know how to build a house. I don't want to. That is a very underappreciated statement. Knowing how to do something doesn't mean you have to do it, but understanding how to do it really does help you further what you want to do and understanding yourself. I'm very concerned for the future generation. Are you seeing anything in terms of the blockchain technology in that space yet?
No, it's not in my house. We've had discussions with some people about leveraging our technology for doing lending with stablecoin.
Yeah.
But that's really as far as I've dipped my toe into that pool.
Yeah, I don't. Cryptocurrency gave blockchain a bad name because it, as a privacy and non-fungible barrier to entry, is so revolutionary. As I read the white paper back in 2012 in college, and I just saw then how digital ownership could completely change, and then it became this crypto craze, and people lost the plot of the underlying technology. And I worry, especially in the financial sector, that we're going to go towards CBDCs and coins that are controlled, that can be turned off, like China. Fun fact, China has a surveillance system called Skynet. Why would you call it Skynet when you... Don't get me started on China. I should back off of China. What do you tell... Actually, I have the final question here because I knew I was going to lose my train of thought in half of this. So because we're coming up to the end, I want to ask the final question for freelancers and creators and independent workers, what does their financial life look like in 5 years?
One, that community is growing, right? So my focus isn't necessarily what does their life look like. It's how do we change our technology and our outlook for the new economy. The new economy has more than one job. Right? The new economy doesn't work 5 days a week. It doesn't necessarily own a home. It doesn't necessarily rent. It doesn't live in one place necessarily. There are so many factors that have changed in our economy of the workforce and how people live that are just dramatically different than how our system was set up. Okay. So when I think about what does the financial system look like for gig workers, or what does their financial outlook look like, I would say in 5 years, we should be able to be more inclusive towards that, right? But if the financial system isn't, then there's going to be a whole new system built for them because they are the growing majority of workers.
Follow-up question. Is this also going to encompass expats?
It should, right? Okay. So I sell to lenders. So my technology is leveraged for lenders, but the underlying mission of it enables for the inclusivity, right? But there's a company that I'm talking with right now that is building something specifically for expats and certain diasporas, people in the US. That's one of the things that they're looking at for how do they leverage this for that. So
I worry about that with the way my country's going, that I might have to leave, which really sucks. I don't want to, but if my free speech is the price I pay for staying here, I'm going to leave. Unfortunately, that is just the way the world's going right now, and I really hate that. But so I do worry that I'm going to be like locking myself into one financial system and not having an option.
So one thing that we early on were looking at and put on our list of what we can accomplish is like a universal credit score that is owned by the person that can travel across borders.
Okay.
That is something that will be hard to accomplish, but it should be something that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Turning the power over to the person.
Very fair. And I appreciate that you thought about it that deeply. So who are you? Where are you at? Where can people find you? And anything else you want to leave the audience?
Find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM. It's the LinkedIn and Tamara Laine. I love to chat with people. I'm a little bit behind on my DMs right now after going to several tech weeks back to back, but that's the best place. And then you can also find Empower there or at our website, empowerai.com. Yeah, love to chat with anyone. We are extremely excited to partner with people. That's it. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll make sure everything's down in the description down below for the audience out there. Thank you for listening. Please share, comment, subscribe, all that bullshit I'm supposed to tell you. Thank you. And please reach out if you need anything. To everybody out there, stay weird.